What's up, everyone? Today we're going to be covering a topic that's very common in the dating universe, and this is the whole idea that a guy or girl, and I feel like um, the general gender that it's more common for is a girl, but it could go either way. Basically, this guy or girl, from now on, I'm just going to say girl, but it could go either way, um, has been holding on to one guy as a boyfriend in an official relationship, but is constantly looking out for better candidates. And immediately, when she finds one who is also interested in her, immediately something happens, or over a small time period, whether it's weeks or days, she somehow just flips the switch. Sometimes by just cheating, or other times by slowly ending the relationship and starting anew, or, and this is often very common, she stays with the initial boyfriend as a sort of provider who provides her with all the stuff that a boyfriend does, the lovey-dovey serious relationship stuff, as well as all the other stuff a provider might provide, like dinners, or carrying your stuff, or going shopping with you. And then she gets the quote-unquote best of both worlds by cheating on him, and pretty much doing it with other guys, because she doesn't want to lose the boyfriend side of it, but she also likes certain aspects that the people she's cheating with provide better. And this could be a variety of things, whether it's better physical hookups, or potentially better a more bad boy, darker relationship, which ultimately leads back to physical interactions. I mean, think about it. Typically, people don't really cheat on their significant others by just because of their personality. Like, if that was truly the case, they wouldn't be doing anything physical with the person that they're cheating with. They would literally just like sneak out to coffee together and chat it up because they loved their personalities so much. So those are the general things, and I'm going to sort of explain why it is this sort of stuff happens and what can be done. So let's just start off with the last thing, because I found that the most interesting, and it's the most relevant, and I could just think of most examples from it. So let's say she has a significant other who's doing all this stuff, and oftentimes when you have one of those serious relationships, this man will provide a lot of these serious boyfriend things that she does not want to get rid of, and therefore she's not considering breaking up with this person. And ultimately she likes these sort of traits, so she wants everything, and she's unfortunately willing to accept the risk of getting caught and it all screwing over for her. And there's a lot of people like this. A lot of different people take different levels of risk, and on top of that, the potential consequences also vary. Especially if you are a pushover boyfriend who won't really do anything, or she knows that the worst that can happen is you just like move on. But ultimately, like, just from my personal opinions, I just think it's a horrible thing, and I feel like in some way, shape, or form it will backfire on you if you cheat, and the consequences will be more dire. And just as a disclaimer, there's no need to ever do that. Like, literally, it's just morally wrong, and you can achieve the best scenario as well without having to go through cheating. Having said that, a lot of people don't realize this, and for whatever reason, they like to live in this sort of world. And ultimately, I think the difference between them and me is that they end up in situations where they find that despite having an abundance or a decent amount of guys, they're not willing to not settle. I'm not willing to settle, so therefore I would rather be single rather than have one girlfriend and then cheat on her because one person has these traits I like and the other has other traits I like. Whereas these people, they're willing to do that for whatever reason. Maybe the guy has a lot of traits that are boyfriend quality. Maybe he listens to her and is willing to spend time and just cuddle with her and understand her problems and sit there for hours and lament and listen to her complain about her worries, or who knows what other provider qualities that a woman would like in a man. But for whatever reason, this man doesn't provide other qualities that she likes, and she just admitted that, hey, I'm fine with having this guy do this stuff and this guy do that stuff. And personally for me, I'm not willing to do that. I'd rather be single than cause that sort of harm and pain in a person. But they're willing to do this, and therefore, you know, they're just potentially free in life. That's other potential reason. They're very much free in life, and therefore, especially when they're younger, they don't really care, and they're like, this is the best that I can have right now. Oh well, I'll deal with it. Who cares? I get the best of the situation, and therefore I get this sort of thing, and then I get the physical relationships with this man, which again, it's one of those strange things. Maybe she finds this person, she has a lot of chemistry with this person in terms of physical relationships, but she likes the boyfriend material from this sort of person. And because she's very young, which is another factor, that could be another reason. She doesn't really care. She wants what a lot of young people are very much thrill seeking and in a mindset of me. What can I do to benefit myself the most? And ultimately they're like, okay, this is going to benefit myself the most. Even if I do get caught, which I might not, doesn't really matter that much. He might just get mad, who knows, and then I move on and I find other guys. Especially with a girl who has plenty of guys, it ends up being this sort of thing. Now ultimately, I am not encouraging you to ever do this sort of stuff, or am I telling you it's a good thing to do, because I feel like there are people out there who do this and get away with it. But at the end of the day, from my perspective, I feel like it will bite them in the butt one day, because to end up in this sort of environment, this is just one possible reason. You have to surround yourself with those sort of people who are willing to cheat with you even though they know you have a boyfriend. And that sort of stuff just leads you to an environment where you're surrounded by these sort of people, and ultimately screws yourself over in just a variety of ways, such as you being cheated on by these sort of people. And because we're all humans, ultimately, especially for females, I feel like males were they were for the longest time polygamous until recently. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I've heard in the last 10,000 years of our history. But especially for females who are monogamous by nature, more so than males, or at least more so investing into it at times, over time you can definitely end up screwing yourself over when you just by your human nature want a serious relationship with this one person because you like them so much, and then they end up cheating on you. And it's like, hey, you surrounded yourself with this sort of environment, and you sort of set it up for yourself to get into this sort of thing. So again, this video, it's a bit of a tangent. Back onto the topic of the video, which is explaining this to people who have been cheated on or are curious about it. Again, first off, reassess your environment. If you're in one of those raunchy, dark scenes where it's where the people there are constantly cheating on each other and so forth, that's the nature of things, and people are at different times in their life, and I'm sure there's people who have been screwed over by it in the long run, and there's probably people who have gotten away with it in the short run and potentially in the long run. But do you really want to risk it? It's kind of like those people who are like, oh, I'm not going to be that guy who dies of cancer from smoking cigarettes, and they risk it. And it's like, sure, there's a small percent chance, but are you going to risk that sort of thing? But again, you know, if you're wondering why, there are people who have gotten away with it, and it's just in their it's their time period in life where they're either young, or they're in a situation where they have a lot of experiences where, hey, it doesn't really matter because I have cheated on others in the past and I've gotten away with it, because all that really happens, even if I do get found out, which is like hard to do because like they'd have to catch me in the act or something else would happen, nothing really happens other than them just getting mad and breaking up with me, which just means I can find more people because I have such abundance of guys, which is definitely the case when you're a very attractive girl. Having said all that, again, just another disclaimer in case anyone's like thinking, hey, maybe I want to try this. There's an abundance of other reasons why you don't want to do this. The first being that, sure, like that may be the case. Like you may just be that, like you may think you're the top dog or the top girl, and you're just getting whatever you want, hooking up with the best guys and establishing that boyfriend side guy or that official boyfriend while hooking up with others. Just another reason to just discourage you from this. Like, sure, people may get away with it, but just think about it. First off, you will get screwed over eventually, or even if you don't get screwed over eventually, the people who do this, they have they first off just get into a state of just, for one, a state of just you know, mistrust. They just don't trust anyone anymore, and they can end up never trusting anyone because they have experienced and engaged in so much cheating themselves. So they get exceptionally jealous, and it's just constantly paranoid. And the second thing is, you may eventually run into one of those whack job cases where the boyfriend, goes crazy and kills you or physically harms you. I've read a few news articles where that happens, where a guy found out he was cheating. His girlfriend was cheating, so he did all this crazy stuff, like drew them into a room and then locked the door in, like physically like messed up this guy to the point where he was so brain damaged that he couldn't really function normally anymore, and he couldn't remember anything. And fortunately, like I believe they both survived the incident, but the guy was locked up in jail for quite a lot of time, and the girlfriend, you know, she probably did not get out of that fully healthy either. So you can run into one of those whack job cases. Now, why does that sort of stuff happen? Just look at nature. Just look at the other animals. It's an evolutionary thing. Lions will kill the cubs before entering a pride because they're not his children. And ultimately, this sort of behavior is because they want to preserve their own genetics and survive and reproduce and produce their own offspring and genetics to the future generations, rather than some other male's offspring. And there's plenty of species that are alive today, which, by the way, are probably getting killed by humans and pollution and so forth. But still, a lot of species alive today who display a lot of these very aggressive traits, literally killing different species if they find out that those species were cheating on them. So that's where that sort of stuff comes from. Kind of gruesome, and definitely a little overboard and not something I recommend if you find out someone's cheating on you. Moving on from that though, there's other reasons as listed. So some females don't have that many options, and some deeply they may have deep down realized this and come to terms with it. And so what they're doing is they have realized this, they've become boyfriends or girlfriends with one person because it's the best at what they have, but deep down they are looking for other opportunities. Now this sort of covers pretty much everything, because it covers every scenario. And is it really right or wrong? In terms of evolution, survivability, and reproduction in biology, it's literally in their genetics. It's almost robotic in a sense. I feel like it's kind of stupid and kind of lame, which is why, like, I don't think I would ever do it. But to a certain extent, it's kind of like everyone sort of does it to a certain extent, because ultimately everyone's trying to get the best partner that they can get. And so ultimately if they do run into someone who's literally better than their personal partner in every single trait, personality wise, chemistry wise, physical appearance, and they find out that this person likes them too and won't mind getting into a relationship with them, they just sort of jump the gun, and that sort of stuff happens. Most of the time though, for the average Joe or the average female who have average options and average amount of people, they're more so just, they may find someone with a couple better qualities. And so it is strange how this works, but obviously you as a free-thinking individual can break this sort of thing. How? I know people who will not break up with their boyfriends or girlfriends, few and far between, but there are people out there who will not do this even if they were to find someone who is better in every single way. In fact, this question was literally almost verbatim asked of an individual I know, and he responded literally with, "No, I would not do that. I would not break up with my girlfriend to do that, even if the girl I met was better in every single way." And then he went on to say all this philosophical stuff, basically like, I'm happy enough as I am, and that would not really bring more happiness, and because of the relationship I'm in now, it wouldn't be moralistically right to do that. So that's, as a free-thinking individual, you don't have to conform to this reality. You can definitely go out and break it like this individual has done. And so back to the whole point with cheating though, that's what a lot of people do. And sometimes they're not really thinking. They don't go through all this thinking behind it. It's just going about their life, experiencing it as it happens, and then there's like, what the heck, I might not even be caught anyways. Hey, this is pretty fun, and my current boyfriend does not provide it, or it's a moment that they would enjoy, but ultimately their current boyfriend wouldn't like it, but they wouldn't find out. It comes down to, it's a moment that they would more or less enjoy. And so again, I think it's one of those things that definitely, as a free-thinking individual, if you want to, you can definitely break free of. But oftentimes you find a lot of individuals who they don't follow this sort of stuff. Another big example is, and I've talked about this briefly in another video, think of someone who has an above average amount of options, an above average amount of attention given to them from the opposite gender on a daily basis, maybe even more than above average. And so consider this female who is getting berated by all these options, and she already has a significant other, let's say a boyfriend, but because of this constant influx, she knows she has this abundance, and over time, by probability, she may just find someone who is better in every single area, personality, chemistry, as well as physical looks and so forth, and that ultimately ends up with literally a dynamic where it's like, holy crap, what should I do? And so then therein lies that dilemma, and a lot of people won't follow what the individual I mentioned before would follow, and they just be like, hey, this guy's better in every way, swap. And she either breaks up with him or slowly over time breaks up with him. And again, it's one of those things where it starts to make you question, like, what really sets me apart from other people? Like, literally, like, okay, what makes me want, what makes her want to keep me rather than just swap over to the better person? And so that ultimately comes back down to your true chemistry. And I think it's a good idea and core concept to really assess someone you want to marry one day, because a lot of people are disillusioned, especially guys, male figures. Males are very much disillusioned, and they will just say like, this is the perfect girl for me based on just physical looks. And especially when you don't have much to offer yourself, it's literally like, why would a girl like you over that other guy? And then when they leave you, like, sure, if it's an official relationship, you're right to get mad. But if it's just like a friendship or something like that, and you haven't really established anything, like, there's no reason for you to get mad, because you're basing all your interest on physical looks, and she's basing all her interests on a variety of things as well. And if you don't have some like deep reason for both of you to connect, or a real true reason for both of you to really like each other, like, I don't know, some deep chemistry or inside jokes or something that really keeps both of you together, then you shouldn't get mad if she leaves you for someone else, even if it is for something as simple as just looks. Hey, he's better looking, because at the end of the day, aren't you doing the same thing? And a lot of males just on average have a lot fewer options, and because of that, they've never experienced that, where they meet another girl who's also interested, who's better. And because they've never been in that scenario, if they were ever in that scenario, they'd probably do the same thing and just hop out and either cheat or end up dropping the first girl for the second girl. But because they're in that state of scarcity, and they just have that one girl, they're like, I can't believe she did that. I would never do that. We have so much in common. I thought we had a lot of chemistry and so forth. When it's like, no, dude, you guys didn't really have much in common. You could barely talk without running into a long streak of silence, and on top of that, you only liked her for her looks. And heck, this guy she left you for, he actually has a deep chemistry, and it's not just looks that they have in common, or whatever other reason. And heck, you weren't even a boyfriend or girlfriend. In fact, you were just like casual acquaintances. So that's you know, food for thought, really. That's all I really want to say, and as always, like, favorite, comment, and subscribe. Share this video with someone you think would be helped by it. And as always, hit the subscribe button. I'll see you in my next video. If you subscribe, see you guys later.